gone without a trace. The rain battered the windows of the old Maplewood house, where Clara had spent her childhood. Shadows danced upon the walls, cast by the flickering candles she had lit against the oppressive storm. The air was thick with the scent of damp wood and a history that echoed within the creaking floorboards. Clara had returned to this abode after years away, summoned by her grandmother's passing and the daunting task of sorting through the remnants of a life that now felt strangely foreign. As she unpacked boxes of faded photographs and yellowed letters, Clara couldn't shake the feeling that something was amiss. It had been years since she had last visited, but the house should have felt like home. Instead, it was as if the walls were closing in, holding tight to secrets, just waiting to slip through the cracks. After an exhausting day, Clara decided to call it a night. She climbed the staircase, each step echoing with an eerie familiarity. The guest room, her childhood bedroom, felt both inviting and unsettling. She was about to close her eyes, when the sound of a soft rustling outside her window drew her attention. Frowning, she approached and peered out into the stormy night. Lightning illuminated the forest, beyond the yard, casting long shadows between the trees. Amidst the chaos, she thought she saw a figure, a fleeting silhouette that vanished with the next flash. Shaking her head, she hoped it was just her imagination playing tricks on her. The branches whipped fiercely against the glass, adding to her unease. The next morning, Clara's resolve strengthened. She would uncover the mysteries lurking in her grandmother's old journals, which lay strewn about the house, their pages yellowed with age. As she leafed through them, she stumbled upon a curious entry dated 15 years prior. It spoke of the Echo, a local legend about a young girl who disappeared in the forest, leaving no trace behind. It detailed the townsfolk's whispers, their fears, and superstitions about the ancient trees that seemed to watch and wait. Is it still out there? Clara wondered aloud, her curiosity piqued. That evening, she decided to venture into the woods. Armed with a flashlight and a sense of trepidation, she stepped into the embrace of the towering trees. The air was thick with dampness, and the forest seemed to swallow her whole, each footfall dampening the sounds of her world. Clara followed a winding path she remembered from her youth as the legend echoed in her mind. After what felt like an eternity, Clara stumbled upon a clearing she hadn't seen in years. In its center stood a colossal oak tree, its gnarled branches extending toward the sky as if grasping for freedom. Beneath it sat a small, weathered box half buried in the earth. Her heart raced as she knelt to uncover it. With a deep breath, she opened the box, revealing a collection of trinkets, a locket, a porcelain doll's head, and a small journal fashioned from the skin of an animal. The items were fragile, worn by time, and filled with an eerie sense of nostalgia. As she carefully flipped through the journal, Clara's heart sank. The entry spoke of dreams, shadows that whispered names, and a desperate search for escape. It belonged to a girl named Elise, the same girl from the legend who had vanished all those years ago. Clara's fingers trembled over the words, and she was struck by an odd connection to this lost soul. Suddenly, she felt a chill sweep through the clearing. The wind howled, and for a brief moment, the forest seemed to breathe. Clara looked around, feeling a presence that was both comforting and terrifying. Then, she heard it, a soft voice, like the echo of laughter carried by the breeze. "Help me." Clara startled and instinctively turned toward the sound, her heart fluttering with a mix of fear and intrigue. The voice called again, filled with longing and despair. Compelled by an unknown force, Clara followed the sound, deeper into the forest. With each step she took, visions danced in her mind, a girl playing among the trees, laughter ringing out like chimes in the wind. Then, silence. Hours passed as she wandered, lost in a world that felt both foreign and familiar. Finally, she stumbled upon a hidden glade, illuminated by the soft glow of twilight. In its center stood another oak tree, identical to the first. At its base, Clara saw the outline of a girl, the lost spirit of Elise, her translucent figure weeping silently beneath the ancient branches. Clara approached, her heart pounding. "Elise," she whispered. The spirit lifted her head, eyes filled with sorrow and hope. "You found me," she replied, voice barely a breath. "Please, help me break the curse that keeps me here." realizing in that moment that the townsfolk had never forgotten Elise, but rather tried to forget, suppressing the pain of loss that lingered in the air. Clara reached out, her hand brushing against the cool, ethereal skin of Elise's hand. Together, Clara promised, feeling an unbreakable bond form between them. With a surge of courage and compassion, Clara recited the words she had read from her grandmother's journal, a prayer that had once comforted generations. The air shimmered with energy, swirling around them, drawing the girl closer as a brilliant light enveloped the glade. When light subsided, Clara found herself alone once more in the clearing, the weight of what had occurred bearing heavily on her heart. The cool breeze felt different now, lighter and filled with a sense of relief. She had set Elise free after all those years, allowing her to move on from the shadows. Returning to Maplewood, Clara felt a new sense of purpose. The memories of her grandmother and the stories woven into the fabric of her past weren't just relics to sort through, but threads that connected her to something greater. She would remember Elise and the countless souls who had come before, rejoicing in the promise that not all was gone without a trace, some lived on in the echoes of the heart. As dawn broke, Clara stood at the window once more. The storm clouds had cleared, and sunlight streamed through the glass. She was ready to embrace the legacy of love and loss that shaped her family, determined to ensure that those stories would never disappear again. Click the subscribe button if you enjoyed my story.